Okay, well, with her thoughts on Tuesday's throne speech, we're now joined by Lana Payne, the president of UNIFOR, which is this country's largest private sector union. Lana, thank you for being with us.
Thanks for having me, Michael.
You know, we're starting to hear concerns being raised about the throne speech. The Canadian Labour Congress, for one, expressing disappointment that the speech prioritized tax cuts instead of signaling bolder action on the trade war. I'm wondering, with that in mind, what is your reaction to essentially the priorities highlighted by the Carney government in this speech read by the King?
I think what we got in the throne speech, particularly from the government side of things, was a reiteration of some of their commitments in the election. I think that there could have been bolder things said, that is for sure. There is a lot of work ahead, but there was also a lot that had to be also said in this strong speech, particularly when it comes to Canadian sovereignty, and that to me was the focus of this strong speech. And one line will stay with me that I will repeat back and forth to government every chance I get, and that is that we have to be bold and use our conviction that the economy has to serve everyone, and that is something that's going to be key as we deal with this trade war and we deal with the challenges in our own economy going forward. There definitely has to be a concern about the impact of all of this on working people and how we work our way through it to make sure that their interests are protected and that their employment is protected.
Okay, well, I do want to pick up on that point because, as you say, the speech does highlight this economy that needs to be an economy for everyone. But yeah, I think there are concerns being expressed, particularly from workers and more progressive groups, that perhaps this prime minister is more informed by the banking world and not enough by the experience of workers in this country. You sit on the Canada-U.S. Advisory Council. What would you say to that concern?
I mean, Michael, every government, when you have a new government, you have to go through what I would call an opportunity, which our union is doing right now, to make sure that new ministers, a new prime minister understands the lay of the land when it comes to our perspective on things. I have had an ability to sit down with this prime minister. You're aware of that. We had a good long conversation during the election campaign. I believe that, there are a lot of things that this government's going to have to deliver on. There were a lot of commitments made to working people. There were a lot of commitments made about protecting workers' jobs through that election and making sure that workers were front and center in how it is we made ourselves and got ourselves through this trade war. So our job now as a union is to make sure that the government lives up to those commitments. None of this is ever easy, and I don't think that we can ever sit back and just assume, no matter who the government is, that they're going to get everything right. That's on us to make sure that they do get things right. And, I share, obviously, a lot of the perspective of the Canadian Labour Congress in terms of where we need to get to here. We need to make sure that the employment insurance system is better. There were some changes made to that prior to the RIT being dropped. Some of those changes will expire very quickly. We have to make sure that they're there for working people and so much more besides. But that means a lot of work for us in the trade union movement, and I believe we're up for it.
Mm-hmm. But work for you as a trade union, but you do want Ottawa to step up because UNIFOR has talked about the need for public investment, public ownership. What would that look like? I wonder, for example, with auto plants, I don't have to tell you how under threat they are. Does it mean, for example, an investment, a purchasing of an auto plant and repurposing it for something that might be beneficial to the Canadian economy?
I mean, the reality is on auto and every other industry that we have right now, we've been very clear to this government, and we're going to continue to be clear, is that what we expect is that they need to use all the tools and levers that they have to protect the industries that we have, but also to develop strong, robust industrial strategies for the auto sector, for the aerospace sector. The world is changing. We have to reimagine our own economy here in Canada in so many ways because we can't be as dependent on the United States. This is the reality of what we're facing. When it comes to the auto industry, industry, we've been clear about the number of things that they need to do. First and foremost, they need to protect the footprint we have, and we need to look at making sure that we're bringing more players into the Canadian auto industry. There are a lot of auto companies that sell in Canada and don't build in Canada. I think as a priority, we need to make sure that we're attracting that kind of investment. And you have to look at the government. They've already worked with these auto companies. They've invested in some of them in a number of ways, and they have to make sure that these automakers and all corporations are living up to their commitments to Canada and to Canadian workers.
And you do point out as a union that Canada does have its own FEMA, if you will, this federal law that would allow penalizing companies that take jobs out of Canada in response to this tariff threat from the United States. Can you talk to us a bit about the law that you're referring to here, the Foreign Extraterritorial Measures Act?
I know we have so many laws on the books, but this one is an important one. It's about 40 years old, and it can be a very powerful tool in the toolbox for the Canadian government should they choose to use it. We're obviously telling them about it and saying, look, there's a problem right now, and our union understands the problem. We deal with some of the largest corporations on the planet. Many of them have tariff mitigation plans on their boardroom tables right now, and those plans can and may include things that will not be in the best interests of Canadian workers. So we need the Canadian government to say, look, if you're going to shift production out of this country, there are going to be penalties for that. There are going to be consequences for it. And we need these corporations to understand and to think about something else other than the threats that they've been getting from Donald Trump at the moment, that there is a Canadian market here, that they do want to have access to it. And if they want to carry on having access to Canadians and Canadian markets, then that comes with a price, and the price is we expect you to build and invest in this country. And should you choose not to do that and to shift production, there will be consequences for that.
And you're talking about fines upwards of $1 million, if not more than that, for companies that take jobs out of this country.
Yeah, and I mean, our recommendation to government is obviously this law was written 40 years ago. Some of those penalties need to be updated. I've also been, pretty clear. There's two ways we can go about this. We can employ carrots, which we have done, and in the case of companies that invest and build in Canada, what the government has said to them at our urging is that if you're building here, you don't face counter tariffs from Canada. But should you make decisions that are going to impact your footprint and impact Canadian jobs, that tariff remission can very quickly become a stick. And all of a sudden you do face tariffs because you're shifting production out of the country. The same must be true in terms of employing this other piece of legislation and making sure that we're fighting for everything we can before permanent decisions are being made around investment and around shifting production. And this is the critical time. We do not have a new deal with the United States right now, so we've got to keep everything that we have at the moment. And one of the ways we can do it is be very clear to corporations that, hey, you want to play here in Canada, you want to build here in Canada, we want you to build here too. But if you choose to go another route, then that changes the ball game.
Lana Payne, always appreciate the time. Thank you for this. We'll speak again soon.
Thanks, Michael.